Hey everyone, so One Piece chapter 1042 just came out, and I had a lot of people messaging me being like, Morge, the raid failed, the raid failed, the raid failed. No guys, we have to go through this again. This is not what the raid failing looks like. It doesn't even make sense. Onigashima's not even at the flower capital yet, right? We're not even at the climax. It's not even above the flower capital yet. Tanisha's still doing some stuff. The scabbards are making preparations for something. Momonosuke's going through some stuff. Kaido hasn't had his flashback yet. We're not there. This isn't the climax yet, right? At least I'm pretty sure this isn't the case, right? We're not there. More importantly, even if we set all of that stuff aside, the point of the raid failing, right? What is the point of the raid failing? Every great One Piece arc and every great story in general needs a point where the protagonists fall short in a meaningful way that has a dramatic impact on the story and dramatically affects the characters, right? That's the point of the raid failing. This, which is like Luffy lost because CP0 jumped in, grabbed his arm, and then Kaido hit him, that's not really Luffy falling short in some way. That's this random outside inconvenience that caused him to lose this fight. If anything, it's more of a moral loss for Kaido than anyone else. And in general, the idea that this whole thing, that the whole alliance loses because a random inconvenience comes in and then, and then we go from there, that's not there's not a lot of purpose to that sort of a defeat, right? It doesn't really do anything for the characters other than be like, we got really unlucky, basically, right? So I might be wrong, but I wouldn't even want this to be the way that the raid fails, that Luffy loses in this manner, and that's just it. But no, I don't think that this chapter suggests, it's not evidence for the raid failing. I think it's funny that there's a lot of chapters where I see certain things, I'm like, okay, the tone of this seems to suggest to me that they are being set up for defeat at the end of the day, versus chapters like this where people are like, where I'm like, okay, no, this isn't it, but then other people are like, oh, this is a defeat, it's all over, right? So, I don't know, I guess we just have differing views on certain things, but no, I don't view this as the raid failing. I was correct in saying that Luffy is going to lose with Snake Man. Ultimately, it turned out to be Bound Man, but the general point being from the last video that I put out that, yeah, Luffy, it's still clearly too early, and that's what I was basically saying in my previous video, that it's too early, we still don't have Kaido's flashback or anything like that. We're not there at the climax point where Onigashima we would expect to be above the flower capital. Interestingly enough, the chapter begins with them, setting off their lanterns and everything into the sky. I think that that's likely setting up for some imagery where very soon Onigashima, they're seeing all of their nice stuff going up into the sky, and then we see Onigashima coming in basically as this impending gigantic cloud of doom that basically blocks out the sky and covers up all their lanterns or whatever, right? I think we're going to get some juxtaposition of imagery there, which leads me to believe that Onigashima is probably going to be above the flower capital soon. That would make sense considering that, Kaido, now that Luffy's likely down and out for a bit, I don't know. It's hard to tell, right? Because we could get to see basically Luffy just get straight back up after this, right? Well, I guess I'll talk a little bit more about that as we talk through the chapter. But I guess at the very least, because Kaido seems to have gotten maybe a brief respite from fighting Luffy, that might make it now harder for Momonosuke to keep dragging the Onigashima away from the flower capital, just because maybe Kaido is now able to put more effort into moving Onigashima. So we might soon see Onigashima above the flower capital. So all that aside, let's just talk about the chapter. I thought that this was a really, 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 really great chapter. No matter what the future consequences of any of this are, I thought that this chapter was really, really, really a joy to read. So, Kaido versus Luffy. This I think was almost indisputably in my mind the best choreographed fight sequence in Wano so far, right? I think, definitely blows a Big Mom fight out of the water, blows out even previous Kaido versus Luffy chapters and things like that, like Zoro versus King, Sanji versus Squid. I think it's just the best choreographed fight in Wano. I think that, it was just epic. It was seeing Luffy and Kaido zigzag and fly all across Onigashima, shooting things at each other, knocking each other basically across and around the island. It was crazy. Kaido pulling out Future Sight. Let me slow down a little bit, right? So, to begin with, Kaido's getting hit by all of these Hydra attacks, and we do get a little comment from him, which is that this is not how rubber should work. God knows how much people want to read into that. I have no idea. I'm going to mentally shelve all of this Gomu Gomu no Mi stuff for a bit till we get confirmation either way. I think, this statement could easily apply even if it, we know that Luffy's doing things with rubber that shouldn't be possible. So is it just Luffy, really being, just stretching the capabilities of rubber in a way, in creative ways, or is it literally just a different fruit, right? So for the longest time, we've assumed that it's Luffy able to come up with creative ways to do more with rubber than you would expect possible. If it turns out it's just a different fruit, we'll have that discussion when the time comes. But Kaido's getting hit with those attacks, right? Then Kaido busts out the Future Sight. I'm so happy that Oda had a moment like this where Kaido's breaking out the Future Sight and it's clearly established that, hey, this character can also use Future Sight. That's a big deal. That establishes that we shouldn't just assume certain things. Like, I've seen so many people saying, like, oh, what if Big Mom was just using her awakening her entire fight? Or what if Kaido was just using his awakening up till now? No, I think Oda is generally pretty clear when he wants to make it, he wants the reader to know when a character is using one of these coveted special abilities in the series, right? Like the chapter after Luffy and Kaido revealed what Advanced Conqueror's Haki looked like, literally the chapter after that, Oda made sure that Big Mom also showcased Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Oda likes to make it clear that when a very special ability in the series is being used, such as Awakening, such as Advanced Haki of some sort, right, that the reader is able to understand that this is what this character is able to use. So, I like that. Confirms that Kaido is not using Future Sight up to this point. At least I believe that confirms that, right? Because Kaido has not done a particularly good job of dodging anything. And logically, it also makes sense, right? Because Kaido, he's saying, now I'm going to start using Future Sight. Logically, it makes sense because it was established way back in Whole Cake Island that using Haki drains your energy, right? Using lots of Haki drains your energy. That is why we had this discussion. Luffy explicitly explained this when he was taking that brief break with Brûlé outside of the Mirror World before he went back in to fight Katakuri. Luffy talked about how using too much Haki drains your stamina. This is very important to note because it makes sense that Kaido, a physically extremely strong creature as he has no need to continually be using Future Sight the way someone like Katakuri does, the way Luffy has likely been doing it recently, because why would he? He's Kaido. He doesn't need to block many attacks. Today was the first day in God knows how many years he needs to block attacks, right? So for a long time, Kaido has likely been, not necessarily... I mean, he's clearly been heavily damaged. I mean, Zoro literally scarred him, right? So he's probably been underestimating the strength of a lot of attacks that have hit him. But at the same time, it's he's finally reached a point where he's decided to devote more of his stamina into Future Sight and actually dodging, because he literally can't dodge any of these Hydra attacks, right? He literally was just getting overwhelmed by the number of attacks he was getting hit by. So I like that. Sorry I had labored for so long talking about Future Sight, but I just like that distinction that was put in the series. So Kaido also has a few different drunk modes that he goes into. I'm not going to talk about all of them. It's getting more and more funny. This one, finally, I was not, I was kind of just like, yeah, okay, whatever, as we went through the different drunk modes. But the flirtatious drunk mode, I think that one finally really got me. And now I kind of just love the fact that Kaido has all these drunk modes. Anyway, Kaido transforms into dragon form to avoid the Hydra attacks. Makes a lot of sense. You want to avoid lots of attacks, so you become your most gigantic, enormous form. But I guess, Kaido's kind of slinky in his dragon form, so he quickly... It's just so funny to me that he goes into his dragon form is so ridiculously big, and to avoid these tiny little punches, he just becomes this gigantic target, but Oda treats it as though this is like a very elusive and snake-like form. It's like, no, it's gigantic. It's this doesn't make any sense, but whatever. I know it's not a comedic moment, but it's just funny to me. So Kaido grabs Luffy. I just like the variety of abilities that we're getting to see both of them bust out, right? So Luffy's first hitting him with Hydra attacks and Snake Man. Then Kaido's grabbing him, taking him all the way above Onigashima, and then blasting him down through the island with Boro Breath at basically like right in Luffy's face. This is not the first Boro Breath that Luffy's had to tank, but I guess that, Kaido made sure it was really up close and personal. Luffy goes all the way through Onigashima. We see reactions from Yamato, from Momonosuke. It was funny seeing Momonosuke's little reaction panel, because I'm like, he's this tiny, like he's also a dragon, but he's getting freaked out by this giant blast of energy coming through the island. Then Luffy quickly shrugs that off. He's up. He hits Kaido with, now he's in Bound Man. I like the versatility that Luffy's showing. He's able to shift between Gear 4th forms now. That's crazy. It makes it like way more potent, just the fact that he doesn't have to pick anymore. Okay, is Snake Man perfect for this? Is Bound Man perfect for this? whatever, he can switch, right? So before he was trying to overwhelm Kaido with a lot of hits, so that was Snake Man. Now he's trying to finish Kaido with some really strong attacks, so that's Bound Man. Then Luffy knocks Kaido down. And then Kaido hits Luffy with essentially a mirror of the first attack that he used to finish Luffy off with in Act 1, right? It's a very, very, very similar panel. Kaido just going straight past Luffy, hitting him with a Bagua. But this time, right, we get very similar imagery of the breath leaving Luffy's body, right? It seems like Luffy's about to exit Gear 4th, but this time Luffy's able to hold on to it. He's like, I have to hold on to it. So Luffy comes out of it, and then they're about to clash. And then CP0. It was a little bizarre to me seeing CP0 I was like, he's here right now? Because CP0 a second ago, he was downstairs with X Drake. So I was not sure if I was imagining I was seeing CP0 just run. The final panel, I think, I mean, the centerpiece of that final spread, that's one of the greatest panels I think I can recall in recent memory, right? It looks beautiful, it looks amazing. Kaido's done this kind of, overhead smash attack before on Kinemon, but this is it looks great. I don't know. I think that so many things can come out of this chapter, right? The most important piece of the final page was, of course, Kaido's expression, right? So even aside from the centerpiece panel of Kaido actually hitting Luffy, the most important thing was how Kaido reacted to it and how he's thinking about it. And I like that. What I really, really like about this chapter is that, so the little flashback that Kaido gets of Odin, right? That's very, very important because it gives us a very different perspective on that scene. Because I don't know if you all remember, but when that battle chapter happened, right? When the chapter happened of Kaido versus Odin, a lot of people, it was a controversial chapter at the time. Because, we did not, first of all, get much of the battle between Kaido and Odin. So it was a couple panels here and there. And then it also flew by very fast, right? So it felt rushed at the time. It's like Odin's about to attack Kaido, maybe kill Kaido, and then he sees Momonosuke, and then Kaido hits him, and then the chapter's over, right? So at the time, it was kind of just like, okay, this was a weird, not weird, but like almost abrupt sort of, abrupt sort of, it doesn't sit right with you kind of way of, oh, okay, so their fight just ended like that. That felt surprising, anticlimactic. Okay, so Odin's just done, right? But now we're seeing the purpose of that, which is that was the point. Okay, so it was important that battle went that way. We just didn't get to see much of Kaido's feelings and reactions to that. We just heard afterwards that, oh, I was upset that the fight ended that way, right? But at that point, and we might learn more about it in Kaido's flashback, but now we're getting to see that, okay, that was actually really, really important to him, right? That's not a simple footnote that, oh, Kaido's fight with Odin just, it ended up due to some sabotage or whatever. Kaido wins, move on, very abrupt, very quick. That was important that it went that way because it seems like that's now going to turn into a recurring pattern for Kaido that's really, really going to bother him, right? Maybe that's happened before, even besides that battle with Odin. So this is a really, really good tool now to give us some significant insight into Kaido's character because he's been talking and really enjoying this fight and everything like that. But now we finally get to see and kind of connect the dots of, okay, this moment happening again, of Kaido not getting to finish the fight with Luffy the way that he would have liked. It was also really important to him when that happened with Odin, right? And this gap of 20 years or whatever, hopefully over his flashback, we're going to get to fill in what he's really looking for, what his motivations are. We've gotten a lot of it, right? But I think the full pieces of his character and what he cares about and what he wants to do are finally really coming together. So that final expression that we got of Kaido this chapter, that was probably the most important piece of this chapter. So what we get going forward, I mean, again, I personally don't think Luffy's done, right? I personally think that, maybe he's done for a bit, maybe he's done for one chapter, 2 chapters, heck, but maybe he gets back up next chapter and shows Kaido how strong his spirit is, and Kaido's finally found an opponent, that's going to be able to get back up where even Odin couldn't get back up. And so then their fight's able to continue. Maybe Luffy is able to pull out a new form like a Tiger Man or something like that at this point, because, that's just more dramatic heading into the finale of this battle. So overall, I think that this chapter sets us up for some really, really great stuff. And more importantly, it sets us up for some dramatic stuff coming out of Kaido. So how he's going to feel after this, how he's going to react, potentially segueing into the flashback. And I think Kaido is about to be impressed by Luffy in some way because, I just don't think Luffy's done quite yet, and I don't think that this would be the way that this fight wraps. No matter what you think, raid fail, raid succeed, this is not the point of determining either of those things, right? This is just building drama before we get to that climactic end section. So let's wait and see what happens next week. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like, comment, and subscribe.